Have you ever felt like you are um, walking through life carrying just this impossibly heavy backpack?
Oh, I think everyone feels that way right now.
Right. And I don't mean a literal canvas pack, obviously. I'm talking about, a psychological one.
Yeah, the invisible weight.
Exactly. A pack filled with literally everything you've ever picked up along the way. Like, we're talking about your past mistakes, sure.
Regrets, absolutely.
Yeah, regrets. But also, and this is the big one, what about other people's expectations?
Oh, that's the heaviest part.
It totally is. What about the random pieces of advice you never asked for? And here's the one that really gets me.
What's that?
What about the praises and the compliments that somehow, somewhere along the line, quietly turned into an immense amount of pressure?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's so true.
Right. You wake up every single morning, you heave this invisible pack onto your shoulders, and you keep walking.
Because that's what everyone else seems to be doing.
Exactly. You look around, and everyone is hunched over, carrying their own invisible boulders.
It is arguably the most universal feeling of the modern human condition. We are just chronic accumulators of psychological weight.
Chronic accumulators. I like that.
Yeah, we gather up these narratives, these expectations, these little pieces of identity, and we just throw them in the bag.
And we never take them out.
No, we don't. And the truly insidious part is like the societal reinforcement.
What do you mean?
Well, our culture rarely, if ever, tells us to stop, assess the weight, and just set it down. Instead, society usually hands us another heavy stone.
Right, like a promotion or a new goal.
Exactly. A promotion, a new societal standard, a milestone we're supposed to hit by age 30 or 40, and then they praise us for our resilience in carrying it.
So we mistake the endurance of unnecessary pain for actual character development.
Yes, exactly that. We think suffering means we're growing.
That distinction right there, mistaking the endurance of unnecessary pain for character development, that is the absolute center of our mission for today's deep dive.
It's such a crucial topic.
It really is, because today we are exploring a brand new, just published book that tackles this exact phenomenon.
And it does it so beautifully.
It does. It is called The Five Gates by Christopher S. Levine. And I want to be entirely transparent with you listening right now.
Yeah, we need to set the stage here.
Right. Out of all the thousands of books you could browse through on Amazon today, this one represents a genuine paradigm shift.
It's completely different from anything else out there.
It really is a rare gem. It's a beautifully crafted parable, but it functions as a profound shortcut to psychological clarity for anyone feeling crushed by the modern world.
What makes this new release so compelling is its departure from the current landscape of personal development.
Yeah, the self-help section is wild right now.
It is entirely saturated with hyper-optimization. Everything is, a 10-step checklist to maximize your morning routine.
Or a biohack to squeeze 10% more productivity out of your waking hours.
Right, which is just exhausting. The Five Gates goes in the exact opposite direction.
It's a narrative, right?
Yeah, it's a quiet, meticulously structured story about a traveler on a seemingly simple journey. But Levine sets a trap.
A trap.
A wonderful, empathetic trap in his opening letter to the reader. He warns that you might begin the book thinking you are reading about a fictional traveler.
Okay.
But by the end, you will discover the story has been reading you all along.
Oh, man. Which is such a striking way to frame a reading experience.
It really is.
There are stories we read, and there are stories that quietly read us. Today, we aren't just going to recap a fable.
No, we're diving much deeper.
Exactly. We are going to unpack the intense psychology layered beneath the narrative.
And we're going to look at the author's fascinating background, too.
Right, his highly unusual background that lends this story its gritty authenticity. We're also going to explore the stunning visual illustrations of the ancient stone archways that separate the chapters.
The artwork is incredible.
It really is. And we're going to analyze the interactive reflection sections, because this book isn't designed for passive consumption.
No, it literally doubles as a personal journal.
It demands that you pull your own stones out of your backpack.
The structural design of the physical book is just incredibly intentional.
Yeah. Talk about that for a second.
Well, it bridges the gap between abstract philosophy and concrete cognitive behavioral practice.
Okay, so it's not just theory.
Exactly. By pausing the narrative and providing intentionally blank spaces paired with evocative illustrations, the book forces a pattern interrupt.
That makes you stop.
Yes. It stops you from just consuming the next chapter and forces you to externalize your own internal monologue.
Which is why you really need the physical copy. By the time we wrap up this conversation today, you are going to learn the psychological secrets behind these 5 specific gates.
And you'll understand exactly why this is a book you'll likely want sitting permanently on your nightstand.
Or on the desk of someone you care about. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the literal, foundational metaphor of the book.
The Traveler's Heavy Pack.
Yes, the traveler's pack. In the opening pages, we meet our protagonist. He's a young traveler, and his defining characteristic is this persistent, nagging belief that his life hasn't actually begun yet.
He is constantly preparing for some future starting line.
Right, which perfectly encapsulates the modern crisis of, well, arriving.
Psychologists sometimes refer to this as the arrival fallacy.
The arrival fallacy. Explain that.
It's the illusion that once we attain a certain goal or gather enough wisdom, we will finally reach a state of enduring happiness.
And then our real life will commence.
Exactly. This traveler has been everywhere. He has crossed rivers, navigated deep forests, climbed mountains.
He has sought out every conceivable source of external validation.
He's spoken to kings draped in silk, shepherds in wool, academic scholars with massive libraries, and stoic fishermen.
He is a collector of wisdom.
Yes. He listens meticulously to everyone he meets, and he takes every single lesson, compliment, insult, and perceived failure, and places them into a massive leather pack on his back.
And the tragic irony is that everyone he meets admires him for his burden.
They do. They think it's a sign of greatness.
Right. They look at this over-encumbered guy and say, wow, you have become quite accomplished.
Or, you must know so much about the world.
They see the size of the pack and equate it with his value, but the text gives us this heartbreaking detail.
At the campfire.
Yes, at night, when he is finally alone and takes the pack off, he sits by his campfire, rubs the deep, bruising marks the leather straps have carved into his shoulders, and asks the fire a question.
Why do I still feel unfinished?
Why do I still feel unfinished? It's so sad.
The phrasing of that question is deeply revealing. Unfinished. He is conceptualizing his entire identity as a resume he is constantly compiling.
Rather than a human life he is actively experiencing.
Exactly. Our resume is never finished until the career is over.
A great point.
If you treat your soul like a CV, you will always feel inadequate. And Levine does something brilliant when he lists the actual contents of the traveler's pack.
Yeah, what's actually in there?
Yeah, he doesn't just fill it with traumatic memories or heavy regrets. The pack contains a ribbon from a village that declared him brave.
Okay.
It holds a highly polished medal from a contest he won. It holds a smooth stone given to him for luck by a well-meaning stranger.
See, that specific detail actually made me put the book down and just walk away for a minute.
The positive stuff.
Yes, the inclusion of the medals and the ribbons. Why in the world are achievements just as heavy as insults?
It seems counterintuitive, right?
Totally. If someone calls me brave, or if I win an award at my company, isn't that intrinsically a good thing?
You would think so.
Why does a symbol of my success go into the same heavy, bruising backpack, right alongside the cruel remark from a middle school teacher who told me I'd never amount to anything?
We have to look at the mechanics of extrinsic identity to understand that.
Break that down for me.
When an achievement is internalized improperly, it mutates. It stops being a celebration of a past action and becomes a standard you are suddenly terrified of failing to maintain in the future.
Oh, wow. So you have to keep living up to it.
Exactly. If your core identity becomes tethered to being the brave one or the smart one or the high performer, every single subsequent action you take is weighed against that medal in your pack.
The praise essentially becomes a psychological cage.
Yes. You are no longer acting freely or authentically. You are performing a role to maintain the validation you placed in your bag.
That is wild.
In terms of sheer psychological weight, the insult and the compliment function identically. They both outsource your sense of self-worth to the opinions of other people.
You perform to maintain the validation. That makes so much sense, and it is exhausting just thinking about it.
No wonder his shoulders are bruised.
Right. So he's carrying this immense weight, feeling completely hollow, until he encounters an old gardener.
The gardener is such a great character.
He is. He's just kneeling beside a patch of ordinary blue wildflowers on the side of a dirt road. Now, the traveler almost walks right past him.
Because he's looking for high-status mentors.
Exactly. As we established, he studied under kings and scholars. What could a guy with dirt under his fingernails possibly teach him?
But the gardener calmly stops him.
He does, and he makes this devastating observation. He says that people who are desperately searching for the meaning of life almost always walk exactly the same way.
The gardener points out a mechanical flaw in the traveler's posture.
Which is what?
He says that seekers spend so much time straining their necks to look toward the horizon, toward the next goal, the next destination, the elusive meaning of it all, that they completely forget to notice the ground beneath their own feet.
It is a profound critique of how we orient ourselves in time and space.
It really is.
Here is where I want to pause and talk about the author, because context matters deeply when you are reading philosophy or self-help.
It definitely does.
Christopher Levine is not some cloistered guru sitting on a mountaintop, completely insulated from the harsh realities of the world.
Not at all.
If you read his background, he is a military veteran. He has worked extensively as an investigator and an instructor.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah, this is an author who has spent his professional life operating in spaces where human behavior is raw, often traumatic, and completely unfiltered by polite society.
What's fascinating here is that background provides the entire fable with an undeniable gravitational pull.
Gravitation pull, I like that.
Yeah, when you know the author has navigated overseas deployments, complex investigations, and the darker, more chaotic corners of human nature, the story takes on a different resonance.
It feels earned.
Exactly. This isn't toxic positivity. It's not some naive fluff written by an academic who has never witnessed true suffering.
Right.
It's written by someone who intimately understands profound human trauma, the defense mechanisms we build, the masks we wear, and the devastating physical and psychological consequences of carrying too much weight.
The gardener's quiet, almost whispered wisdom isn't a platitude. It feels incredibly grounded and hard-won.
It's the kind of peace that is forged on the other side of chaos.
But let me challenge the core premise here for a second.
Go ahead.
The gardener is criticizing the traveler for looking too much at the horizon. But isn't ambition objectively good?
It's a fair question.
Right. If we don't look at the horizon, if we don't set long-term goals, how do we have any directional velocity in life?
You're asking about the balance.
Exactly. I'm thinking about you, the listener, who might be a modern professional. Maybe you are actively trying to climb the corporate ladder, provide for your family, build a business.
Yeah, you have real responsibilities.
If you take this advice literally and only look at your feet, don't you just end up wandering aimlessly and achieving nothing? How does the book reconcile the need for progress with this critique of ambition?
It's a vital distinction to make, and the tension you are highlighting is exactly what the book is dissecting.
Okay, so how does it address it?
The gardener is not arguing that ambition, in and of itself, is the villain. The villain is the attachment to the destination at the complete expense of your present reality.
Attachment to the destination.
Right. It is teleological thinking gone toxic, the belief that the end goal is the only thing that justifies the journey.
Ah, I see.
Consider the modern professional you mentioned. If they climb the corporate ladder, make the money, get the title, but feel entirely hollow and burnt out, which we know is a massive systemic epidemic right now.
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere.
It's because they operated under the illusion that their inherent worth was waiting for them on the top rung.
They think the promotion will fix them.
Exactly. They are carrying a heavy pack of future expectations, believing that once they finally reach the horizon, they can magically put the pack down and allow themselves to be happy.
But the horizon just keeps moving.
Yes. The gardener isn't saying stop walking. He's saying look at where you are walking right now, because your life is only ever happening here, not out there.
That realization hits the traveler hard. He realizes he placed this burden on himself, and he's been so obsessed with the destination that he has completely missed the actual road he's on.
And that leads directly to the first gate.
It does. And this internal revelation leads directly to the physical appearance of the first ancient stone archway. The illustrations here are just stunning. The visual illustrations in this newly published book really do a lot of heavy lifting here. It sets a mood that text alone couldn't quite achieve.
Describe it for the listener.
The illustration shows this massive ancient stone arch, heavily overgrown with deep green ivy. Moss is clinging to the lower foundation stones.
It looks very old.
Yeah, it looks like it's been standing for centuries, entirely unguarded, just a quiet monument in the middle of nature. And carved deeply into the very top stone, the keystone, holding the arch together, is a single word. Exist. The traveler's initial reaction is brilliant because it mirrors how most of us would react to such a simple concept.
So he is underwhelmed.
He really is.
Yeah.
He looks at the word exist and essentially shrugs. He tells the gardener, that's all. Everyone exists. That doesn't take any effort.
The gardener immediately challenges his definition.
How so?
He asks if everyone truly exists, or if they are simply performing to justify the space they take up.
Performing to justify their space. Wow.
To illustrate this, the gardener reaches down and picks up a tiny, unremarkable acorn from the dirt. He holds it up and asks the traveler what it will become.
The traveler gives the obvious logical answer. He says, an oak tree.
And the gardener corrects him. He says, no, it already is.
It already is. When I read that, it fundamentally shifted how I view potential.
It's a powerful reframe.
The traveler pushes back, of course. He uses our standard logic. He says it hasn't grown tall, it hasn't weathered a winter storm, it doesn't cast any shade for a traveler. How can it be a tree?
But the gardener points out that every single thing the acorn needs to become a towering oak already rests within its shell.
Doesn't have to go find it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't spend its days anxiously wishing it were a tree. It doesn't compare itself to the pine tree next to it. It simply allows itself to grow.
This metaphor serves as a radical redefinition of human value.
It draws heavily on concepts similar to Carl Rogers' psychological framework of unconditional positive regard.
Unconditional positive regard.
Yeah, or Aristotle's concept of entelechy, the realization of potential that is already inherent within a thing.
Societal conditioning teaches us that the human acorn must constantly prove itself worthy of belonging in the forest, right?
Yes, by becoming massive, by producing measurable output, by casting shade. We operate on conditional worth.
But Levine is arguing, through the gardener, that your core identity is already complete. You don't need to add to it. You just need to actualize it.
And this leads to what might be the most piercing, emotionally devastating question in the entire book.
The gardener looks at the traveler, points to his incredibly heavy pack, and asks this question.
Who told you that you had to earn the right to exist?
Just let that question hang in the air for a second. Who told you that you had to earn the right to exist?
The traveler just freezes.
He physically searches his memory banks. He thinks about every demanding teacher, every bitter rival, every dismissive stranger, every victory he clawed his way toward, every failure that kept him up at night.
And the massive twist is...
no one ever actually said it. No one handed him a contract stating his existence required payment in the form of achievement.
He, quietly, over years of minor social conditioning and internal assumptions, placed that devastating burden on his own shoulders.
And this realization brings us right to the reflection section of the book.
The transition from narrative to active journaling is a masterstroke in structural design.
It changes the entire experience. This is why having the physical copy of this new book, which, again, you can grab on Amazon right now, is so critical.
You need to be able to write in it.
Exactly. Because when you finish that chapter, when your heart is sort of in your throat from that realization about earning your existence, the story abruptly stops.
You turn the page, and you are met with a gorgeous full-page illustration.
A sunlit path leading straight through that ivy-covered stone arch. And on the opposite page, there are lines.
Blank lines for you.
The book breaks the fourth wall and directly asks you, the reader, to take a pen and engage.
It asks questions like, what expectations have I placed on myself that make me feel as though I must earn my inherent worth?
And what specific burdens have I been carrying in my pack that were never truly mine to carry?
It transforms the medium from a story you are passively reading into a psychological mirror you are actively looking into.
The psychological mechanism at play here is cognitive externalization, right?
Yes. When we hold anxieties and assumptions in our mind, they are amorphous. They feel infinite and unbeatable.
But writing them down changes that.
By forcing the reader to physically write them down, the book makes those invisible burdens concrete. It forces you to realize, just like the traveler, that a vast majority of the weight you carry is self-imposed through a misinterpretation of societal demands.
It initiates a profound cognitive shift.
From viewing your own existence as a prize that must be continuously earned through labor, to recognizing it as a fundamental gift to be received and experienced.
When the traveler finally understands this, that he doesn't have to pay rent for his space on Earth with achievements, a tear slips down his cheek.
He reaches up and, for the first time, loosens the tightly drawn straps of his pack.
Notice, importantly, he doesn't throw the pack away.
Right. He doesn't pretend he doesn't have a past.
But he reaches inside, and he starts meticulously removing the things that were never truly his to carry. The expectations of others, the need for applause, the fear of judgment.
He leaves them on the ground.
And only after he drops that weight is he able to take a breath and step through the first gate.
And his expectation upon crossing the threshold is incredibly telling about our culture of instant gratification.
Oh, absolutely. He steps through, and he expects to feel radically different. He expects a sudden rush of euphoria, or for the colors of the world to saturate, or for some choir to sing.
But he looks down and his hands are exactly the same.
The trees around him haven't changed. The dirt on his boots is the same dirt. He looks at the gardener with this immense disappointment and says, "I thought crossing the gate would change me."
And the gardener, without saying a word, picks up a small pebble and throws it into a nearby pond.
For a brief second, nothing happens. The surface remains still.
And then slowly the ripples spread out and touch every single edge of the shoreline.
The gardener finally speaks and says, "Some changes are loud, but the most important ones are usually quiet."
It is a profound lesson in the nature of true psychological transformation.
Because the change wasn't external.
Exactly. The change he experienced wasn't an addition to his character, it was a subtraction of his unnecessary burdens. His pack is physically lighter.
And because he is no longer physically and emotionally crushed by the exhausting weight of having to prove his right to exist to every person he meets, his posture changes.
He can finally lift his chin.
He stops looking at the horizon, and he starts noticing the actual road he is walking on. He looks down and notices these incredibly delicate, tiny blue wildflowers growing stubbornly between the paving stones.
He stops, amazed, and asks the gardener if they were always there.
The gardener says, of course, they've been there the whole time. The traveler is bewildered. He asks why he never saw them before.
And the gardener's reply is a gut punch.
Where were you looking?
He was always looking toward the mountains, toward tomorrow, toward the next achievement.
He was never looking toward where his feet were already planted, which leads them, winding through the valley, toward the second gate.
But before they reach the architecture of the second gate, Levine introduces another vital environmental metaphor.
Ooh, the stream.
Yes. They stop to rest by a shallow, fast-moving stream. The traveler kneels on the bank to take a drink.
For a split second, the water stills and he sees his own reflection perfectly.
But just as he tries to examine his face, a single dead leaf drifts down from the canopy, hits the surface, and shatters the reflection.
The water ripples, and the image is gone. The traveler sits back in frustration. He says, "I almost saw myself." But the water changed.
And the gardener, ever the master of reframing, corrects him.
The water didn't change. The water kept moving.
The stream was never meant to hold your reflection. It was meant to carry you forward.
I highlighted that entire passage. It's such a brilliant way to describe the flow of time. But the traveler's mind is stubborn.
But it keeps drifting backwards, fighting the current. Even as he sits there, he starts ruminating.
He starts thinking about a time he spoke harshly to a childhood friend. He thinks about a time he turned a stranger away because he was too busy chasing his own ambitions.
He is doing that exact thing every single one of us does at 2 a.m., replaying past mistakes on an endless, torturous loop.
Clinically, what is that called?
This is known as rumination, and it is a massive driver of anxiety and depression. It occurs in a network of the brain called the default mode network.
So it was a physiological thing, too.
Yes, it's a cognitive trap, where the brain essentially believes that by analyzing a past event enough times, it can somehow alter the emotional impact or the outcome of that event.
We try to digest an unsolvable problem.
The gardener watches the traveler's face tighten as he gets lost in his own past. So the gardener takes his walking stick and slowly draws a circle in the dirt around the traveler's feet.
He looks the young man in the eye and asks, "If you stand right here in the center of this circle and spend your entire life looking backward over your shoulder, which direction will your feet carry you?"
The traveler thinks about it and assumes the answer is backward. He says, "I'll walk backward."
But the gardener shakes his head. "No, you simply won't go anywhere." I have to tell you, this visual hit me so hard.
It's a powerful image.
Think about how we operate today. Here's where it gets really interesting. We replay an argument we had in the shower so we can finally win it in our heads.
We obsess over an embarrassing comment we made at a dinner party 5 years ago that no one else even remembers.
Exactly. We are essentially trying to drive a high-speed vehicle on a winding, highly dangerous mountain road while exclusively staring into the rearview mirror.
Of course we feel anxious.
Of course we feel completely stuck. You cannot navigate the present if your eyes are locked on the past.
And that analogy perfectly sets up the psychological framework of the second gate, which they finally arrive at.
The word carved deeply into this stone arch is present.
Now, in a lot of modern pop psychology and wellness marketing, the concept of being present has been commodified.
Yeah, it's treated like a spa day.
A temporary 15-minute meditation break from the real business of life, which is supposedly worrying about the future or analyzing the past.
But Levine is aggressively redefining mindfulness here.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this gate argues that the present isn't a rest stop on the journey of life. The present is the entire journey.
There is literally no other place where life occurs.
The traveler looks at the gate, and he finally grasps that he has spent entire seasons of his life with his physical body moving forward, but his heart and mind remaining stubbornly anchored somewhere behind him.
He watches another leaf fall from a tree branch. He notices that the leaf doesn't argue with the changing seasons.
It doesn't beg to remain green when autumn arrives.
It doesn't lament the summer. It simply becomes exactly what the current season requires it to be.
And the traveler realizes that his past isn't asking him to move back and live there. His past only ever wanted to teach him a lesson before letting him go.
Which is a remarkably healthy mechanism for emotional release. You extract the wisdom, and you discard the emotional baggage.
When he finally steps under the second gate, the present gate, he does so with the profound somatic realization that he doesn't need to be anywhere other than exactly where his boots are touching the earth.
He stops fighting the current. He actually takes a deep breath.
He smells the sharp scent of pine needles. He feels the cold wind against his neck. He hears the distinct call of the birds above him.
For the very first time in his life, the word here is entirely enough. And the brilliance of the narrative flow here is that once you are actually here, once you aren't trapped in a self-made prison of replaying the past or stressing over a fabricated future, you finally have the cognitive bandwidth to actually notice the existence of other people.
Which transitions us perfectly into the third major phase of his journey.
It is a seamless transition. By stepping out of his ego and into the present moment, the dense fog of his own internal monologue lifts.
This is represented quite literally in the text. The next morning arrives, and the landscape is wrapped in a thick silver mist. He can't see the horizon at all.
But surprisingly, the traveler isn't afraid of not knowing where the road ends anymore. He has learned to just trust the immediate steps he can see in front of him.
They walk through this fog and enter a small, misty village.
And Levine paints this scene of just ordinary, messy, beautiful life. You can smell wood smoke from the stone chimneys. You see fresh bread cooling on wooden windowsills.
As they are walking, a little girl, maybe 7 years old, trips on a cobblestone and drops a massive woven basket.
Apples go spilling everywhere. Now, in the past, the traveler might have ignored her because he was rushing towards some imaginary horizon, busy trying to be important.
But because he's grounded in the present, he just instinctively stops.
He drops to his knees and helps her gather every single apple. When they are finished, out of pure, unfiltered gratitude, the little girl reaches into the basket and hands him the absolute smallest, most bruised apple of the bunch.
It is such a wonderfully realistic detail. She doesn't give him a grand reward. She gives him what a child values.
She tells him her grandmother says that true kindness always leaves with something in its hand.
It wasn't a transaction. It wasn't payment for his labor. It was a tangible symbol of human connection.
He smiles and tucks that tiny apple into his coat pocket. Later that same afternoon, while still in the village, he notices an elderly carpenter struggling to fix a broken wooden stool.
The traveler doesn't introduce himself or boast about his skills.
He just walks over, holds the legs of the stool steady, and silently helps the old man hammer the final wooden peg into place.
They hardly exchange a word. They just work in tandem.
When it's done, the carpenter wipes his brow and says, "I couldn't have done it alone." And the traveler, surprising himself, replies, "Neither could I."
That realization hits him like a ton of bricks.
By evening, as he and the gardener are leaving the outskirts of the village, he looks back. These people who were complete strangers just 12 hours ago now feel like an indelible part of his own journey.
The gardener asks him what he sees when he looks at the village.
And the traveler admits, "I thought I came here to help them, but I think they helped me just as much."
This realization leads them directly to the third gate.
And visually, according to the book's illustrations, this one looks radically different from the cold stone arches they've passed before.
It does. It is entirely organic. It is completely overgrown with thick flowering vines. Birds have built intricate nests in the crevices of the stone.
Massive ancient tree roots weave up from the ground and disappear directly into its foundation, making it look as though the gate wasn't constructed by masons, but rather grew directly out of the earth itself.
The keystone on this arch reads, "Connected."
Standing before this gate, The gardener asks the traveler a seemingly simple question. What holds a forest together?
The traveler points to the massive oak and pine trees and says, "The trees do."
But the gardener corrects his perspective. He points out that while we look above ground and see many individual trunks, branches, and leaves fighting for sunlight, if you look beneath the earth, the roots of all those trees are already tangled together, holding one another in place against the wind.
Levine is anchoring his philosophy in actual biology here.
Oh, like the fungal networks.
Exactly. In old-growth forests, mycorrhizal fungal networks, sometimes called the wood wide web, connect the root systems of trees.
That is so cool.
They share water, they funnel nutrients to sick trees, they even release chemical signals to warn one another of insect threats. The forest operates as a single superorganism.
Levine takes this biological reality and applies it directly to the ecology of the human soul.
The traveler closes his eyes and pictures the little girl with the apples, the carpenter, his parents, his childhood friends, and yes, even the people who wounded him or insulted him.
He suddenly imagines every single human life touching another, exactly like roots spreading beneath a forest floor, invisible to the naked eye, yet entirely inseparable.
It's a beautiful way to see the world.
I love the poetry of that, but I need to play devil's advocate here and push back on this concept.
Go for it.
Our modern culture, especially in the West, absolutely idolizes the self-made individual. We worship the solitary genius, the lone wolf entrepreneur in a garage, the rugged pioneer who needs no one.
We are told to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps.
Does this chapter actively argue that independence is essentially a myth? And if so, aren't we risking encouraging complacency or codependency by telling people they're just part of a root system?
It is a vital pushback. Yes, the text explicitly challenges the prevailing myth of the completely self-made individual, but it does not advocate for codependency.
What's the difference in this context?
Codependency is a dysfunction where one person relies entirely on another for their identity or emotional survival. What Levine is describing is true interdependence.
Interdependence.
The traveler breaks down in tears at this gate, admitting to the gardener that he spent his entire life trying to stand completely alone, trying to be the strongest, most isolated tree in the forest.
And the gardener's response is incredibly gentle but firm. Were you ever meant to?
The book argues that true agency and individual effort matter. The tree still has to grow its own branches, but the foundation of our survival is communal.
From the bread we eat that someone else baked, to the roads we walk on that someone else paved, to the very language we use to articulate our thoughts, we are the constant beneficiaries of countless unseen hands.
True strength isn't denying that network, it's recognizing it and contributing to it.
The traveler realizes that absolutely no one reaches the end of the road by themselves. We carry one another.
He looks at the gate and says this beautiful line.
A single leaf is beautiful, but a forest is something entirely different. And with that little bruised apple still sitting in his pocket, he steps through the third gate. And listeners, I have to pause here.
Yeah, this is important.
This specific chapter, the third gate about connection and roots, is exactly why this newly published book makes the ultimate gift. Seriously, you need to buy a copy on Amazon today and send it to a friend or a parent or a teacher or a mentor who has quietly shaped your life.
It's an incredible, tangible way to acknowledge the people who built you.
Sending them this book with a note is a profound way of saying, you are part of my root system. Thank you for holding me up when the wind was howling.
It is a profound acknowledgement of our interconnectedness. But of course, the book doesn't shy away from reality.
Connection isn't always harmonious or poetic.
Wherever there are people, there is inevitably friction, misunderstanding, and conflict. The roots can strangle just as easily as they support.
And that brings the traveler to his next great and arguably most difficult realization. To successfully navigate our complex connections with others, we must first learn to navigate the turbulent, often chaotic storms within our own minds.
Which brings us to the fourth gate.
The scenery changes again. They are walking through this massive, incredibly quiet, almost sacred-feeling forest. And suddenly, the peace is shattered by angry voices echoing through the trees.
They follow the sound and come across two brothers standing in a freshly dug garden just screaming at each other.
One of the brothers is holding a shovel that is snapped completely in half. They are hurling these deep historical accusations at each other. You always take more than your fair share. You never think about anyone but yourself.
The traveler, who is now feeling very connected and helpful, immediately tries to intervene and mediate.
But the brothers turn on him and aggressively snap at him to mind his own business.
The gardener gently pulls the traveler away from the confrontation, noting astutely that not every heart opens just because someone decides to push on the door.
They stand back and watch as the brothers' argument devolves further until they both eventually storm off in opposite directions, leaving the broken pieces of the shovel lying in the dirt.
The traveler is confused. He says to the gardener, "I don't understand. They were talking, but they didn't resolve anything."
But the gardener points out the psychological reality of the situation. They weren't conversing, they were just aggressively waiting for their turn to speak.
Each brother was frantically defending his own ego, but neither was attempting to understand the other. They weren't hearing each other. They were only hearing the narrative stories they had already been telling themselves about each other for years.
The gardener walks over, picks up the broken handle of the shovel, and says, "It was never about the shovel."
He explains that sometimes people completely stop seeing the human being standing in front of them, and instead they only see the unbending stories they've written in their own heads.
And this is where the traveler has a massive moment of self-incrimination. He realizes he does this exact thing.
He decides who someone is before truly knowing them.
He judges people's entire hearts based on a single out-of-context moment.
And even more devastatingly, he realizes he does it to himself.
He confesses to the gardener, "I've spent years believing I was nothing more than the sum of my worst mistakes."
This is a masterclass in illustrating cognitive distortions, specifically what psychologists call filtering, or the narrative fallacy.
The narrative fallacy.
Yes. We take a momentary failure, a single difficult season of our life, and we mistakenly edit it into the definitive, overarching story of our entire existence. We define our entire identity by our darkest chapter.
The gardener points down to the dead autumn leaves covering the ground and asks the traveler a rhetorical question. Do the trees believe that autumn is the end of the world?
Do they think the loss of their leaves means they are dead forever?
No, they implicitly understand it is just a passing season. The traveler realizes he has mistaken a passing season of his life for the entirety of his life.
And this profound internal shift, the softening of his own harsh judgments, prepares him for the actual fourth gate, which is located in the most visually stunning setting in the entire book.
A perfectly still, massive lake in the center of a wide clearing.
The visual is essential here. The water is like polished glass. There isn't a breath of wind.
The traveler walks to the edge, looks down into the water, and sees his own reflection with terrifying clarity. He sees every line on his face, every scar he's accumulated, the new gray hairs at his temples.
The gardener walks up beside him, asks what this place is, and notes that it is a place many people come to, but very few people truly see.
And then, without warning, the gardener drops a tiny pebble directly into the center of the lake.
The pebble hits the water, the ripples immediately spread outward, and the traveler's perfect reflection shatters.
It twists, it distorts, it breaks apart into jagged pieces. The traveler just watches it in silence. He waits.
Eventually, the ripples fade, the water stills, and his clear reflection returns.
The gardener looks at him and asks a very simple, incredibly tricky question. Which reflection was real?
The traveler stumbles over the answer. He guesses the first, undisturbed reflection, then he second guesses and says maybe the shattered one, because the world is messy.
But the gardener reveals the truth. They were both reflections. They both showed an image. But only one of them allowed him to see himself clearly.
This interaction is the absolute psychological core of the entire book.
The gardener asks him to take this physics lesson and apply it to human interaction. When someone speaks harshly to you, what are you actually seeing? Are you seeing their anger?
The gardener presses deeper, asking, when someone insults you or dismisses you, have you ever wondered if you're actually seeing them or if you are just seeing the distorted ripples inside yourself?
Boom. Let's synthesize that, because that is the key to so much human suffering. It's exactly like wearing heavily tinted sunglasses.
That's a great analogy.
If you wake up and your internal state is angry, insecure, or defensive, every single interaction you have that day is colored by that tint. It's projected onto the world.
If someone doesn't text you back within 5 minutes, your insecure ripples distort reality and tell you they secretly hate you.
If your boss gives you standard constructive feedback, your defensive imposter syndrome ripples twist their words and tell you that you are a massive failure about to be fired.
We aren't reacting to reality. We are reacting to our own distorted reflection.
This raises what I believe is the most important question for all of us navigating modern life.
How much of our daily exhausting anxiety comes from furiously trying to change the reflection in the water?
Think about it. We try to control other people's actions. We try to force the world to validate us. We argue with strangers on the internet to prove we are right.
We throw stones at the reflection, trying to make it hold still, when what we actually need to do, the only thing we actually have control over, is regulating our own autonomic nervous system.
We have to calm the water of our own emotional state. If the water is still, the world reflects clearly.
The traveler finally gets it. He realizes he has spent his entire life shadowboxing.
He wasn't actually fighting the world.
Yeah.
He was fighting the turbulent storm inside his own mind. He starts laughing through his tears.
He looks up and sees the fourth gate standing right at the edge of the lake, its stone arch reflecting perfectly on the glass-like water.
The keystone reads, "Reflect." And right before he walks through the archway, he whispers this incredible line, "Maybe I don't need to see a different world. Maybe I just need to learn to see differently."
It is a profound paradigm shift. By taking responsibility for calming his internal waters, he achieves true emotional clarity.
And it's crucial to understand that this clarity, this radical honesty about his own distortions, is an absolute prerequisite for the final gate.
You cannot truly transform, you cannot engage in meaningful change if you cannot clearly and honestly see who you currently are.
Which brings us to the climax of the journey. The seasons have turned. The book describes the landscape shifting into deep winter.
The road is now covered in a thick, quiet blanket of white snow.
But interestingly, the traveler isn't cold in his soul. He's at peace. He notices that the old gardener still walks at the exact same deliberate pace he did back in the spring.
The traveler points this out, and the gardener smiles and says, "The road has never been in a hurry."
Eventually, they come to a small hill topped with a young, completely bare oak tree.
The traveler stops and observes the tree. He notes how vibrant and alive the tree looks, even though it is stripped of its leaves and bears absolutely no fruit.
He reaches out, touches the cold, rough bark, and articulates a profound realization to the gardener.
He says that when they first met in the spring, he believed a tree's entire purpose was to produce things to bear fruit, to cast shade, to justify its space.
But standing there in the winter, stripped of all outward production, he realizes its only true purpose is simply to be the exact tree it was created to become.
It simply becomes itself, and everything else follows.
The birds will eventually find shelter in its branches. Tired travelers will eventually find shade under its canopy. But the tree doesn't exhaust itself chasing those outcomes. It just focuses on deepening its roots and becoming its truest self.
And just beyond this winter oak tree, they find the fifth gate.
It is described as being much larger than the others, older than human memory, bearing the deep, weathered marks of countless brutal winters.
And the word carved deeply into this final stone is change.
And here, Levine delivers the massive, subversive twist of the traveler's journey. The traveler stands before the ultimate gate, the gate of change, and he just laughs, a deep, joyful laugh.
The gardener, pretending to be confused, asks him, "What is so funny?"
The traveler looks back at the long, winding road behind them. He looks at his lightened pack and he says that he thought every single gate was going to change him.
He thought that if he walked far enough, wisdom or peace or kindness would eventually replace who he fundamentally was.
He thought he was going to turn into a different person. But they didn't change him. They didn't change me. They revealed me. I genuinely got emotional reading this specific passage.
He didn't become a new, optimized person.
He uncovered the original person he had buried beneath decades of fear, societal expectation, regret, and ego. Just like the acorn from the first gate.
It didn't magically become a pine tree or a rose bush. It just became more fully what it already was at its core.
This is a total brilliant subversion of the typical self-help narrative.
It aligns closely with Carl Jung's concept of individuation, the psychological process of integrating all parts of yourself to become your true self, rather than striving for an idealized, socially constructed version of perfection.
Exactly. And this is why I want to talk directly to you, the listener, for a second. Think about the messaging you are bombarded with every day.
It's relentless.
How many books, podcasts, and seminars have promised to change you into a brand new person? 10 steps to a new you. Hack your personality to become a CEO. Destroy your old self. It is an exhausting, violent way to treat your own soul.
The five gates stands out completely from that noise because it grants you profound permission to stop trying to be someone else.
It tells you that who you are, underneath all the armor you put on to survive, is already enough. You don't need to be rebuilt. You just need to be uncovered.
It is a profound, deeply necessary relief.
That realization alone that you can stop fighting yourself is why I cannot recommend grabbing this book highly enough. It's an investment in your own peace of mind.
It is the ultimate psychological liberation. Standing before the fifth gate, the traveler experiences a wave of intense compassion for his past self.
He tells the gardener that he wishes he could go back in time and just put a reassuring hand on his younger, burdened self's shoulder.
Not to warn him about the pain and not to rescue him from the mistakes, but just to say, keep walking.
Because he now understands that every joy, every sorrow, and every humiliating failure was necessary to shape the root system beneath his feet.
He looks at the gardener with absolute clarity and says, I didn't come to this road to find the meaning of life. I came to become someone who could recognize it.
And with that ultimate truth, he finally steps through the fifth gate. Now, as a reader, you expect a brand new road on the other side, a golden path of enlightenment. But there is no road.
The dirt path completely vanishes.
He steps through the archway and finds himself standing in an expansive, trackless open meadow where the winter snow is just beginning to melt into bright green spring grass. He is stunned.
He asks the gardener, where do we go now? Where did the road go?
And the gardener delivers the final, devastatingly beautiful lesson about the journey itself.
The gardener smiles warmly and tells the traveler that he is still asking the wrong question. He says, the road was never leading you somewhere. It was teaching you how to walk.
The road was simply where your feet chose to love the earth. I mean, come on. The poetic depth of Levine's writing in this climax is just staggering.
They walk out into the trackless meadow, and there is no destination, no urgency, no schedule to keep.
And because the traveler is completely unburdened, because he isn't obsessively worried about his own identity or his own pack anymore, his thoughts naturally and effortlessly turn outward toward the world around him.
He starts wondering who else they might meet in this meadow.
This represents the natural progression of a psychologically integrated, healed person.
When you are in survival mode, all your energy goes inward to protect the ego. Once the internal storms are calmed and the heavy pack is lightened, your energy naturally and abundantly flows outward toward others.
In the meadow, they encounter a woman sitting on the ground, weeping next to a collapsed, ruined stone wall. Now, we have to look at the traveler's growth here.
In the past, his ego would have taken over. He might have rushed in to frantically fix the wall to prove his worth.
He might have offered unsolicited philosophical advice. He would have exhibited the classic savior complex.
But he doesn't do any of that.
He remembers the brothers screaming at each other. He remembers the still lake. He remembers the carpenter. He quietly walks over, sits down in the grass beside her, and just exists with her in silence.
He holds space for her grief. He doesn't try to frantically fix the unfixable.
Eventually, she stops crying, looks at the rubble, and says she doesn't know how to put it all back together.
The traveler simply reaches into the rubble, picks up a single stone, hands it to her, and says, when you're ready, this one belongs somewhere.
He doesn't build the wall for her. He just gives her the dignity and the permission to begin again. When he walks back to the gardener asks what he was needed for over there.
The traveler replies, to remind her she wasn't alone.
It is the profound ministry of presence. It is knowing that sometimes people don't need a solution. They just need a witness to their pain.
And as evening falls in this vast meadow, something truly magical happens in the narrative.
As the sky gets dark, tiny lanterns begin appearing in the distance. Hundreds of them.
They are being carried by children, by families, by solitary strangers, all navigating the meadow.
A young boy comes running up to the traveler in the dark. The boy's panicked because his lantern has gone out. He asks if he can borrow the traveler's light.
The traveler is confused. He tells the boy he doesn't have a lantern.
But the boy points down and says, yes, you do. The traveler looks down at his own hand, and there, burning quietly with a warm, steady glow, is a simple iron lantern.
He had been holding it this entire time without even realizing it.
The boy reaches up, touches his dark, cold lantern to the traveler's flame, and it instantly bursts into brilliant light.
And the traveler notices something incredible. His own flame didn't get dimmer by sharing it.
In fact, in the dark meadow, it actually seemed to burn a little brighter. The gardener leans in and whispers the lesson. A flame loses absolutely nothing by lighting another.
It is a stunning metaphor for generativity and the sharing of wisdom.
Generativity.
In Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development, the later stages of life are defined by this exact concept, generativity versus stagnation. The desire to guide the next generation.
Purpose isn't some grand treasure you discover buried out in the ether. Purpose is something you quietly become through service.
You shine your light, not to arrogantly illuminate the entire world, but just to light the next few immediate steps for yourself and for those walking closely around you.
The book then executes a beautiful time jump for the final chapter. Years, maybe decades have passed.
The traveler's hair is completely silver now.
He's an old man, walking slowly but steadily through the meadow, greeting people, sharing his fire, listening deeply to their stories. One misty morning, he spots a young boy, maybe 12 or 13 years old, standing completely frozen at the edge of the meadow where the road ends. And what is this young boy wearing?
He is hunched over, wearing an impossibly heavy, oversized leather pack across his small shoulders. The great cycle of humanity begins again.
The boy is terrified. He is standing at the edge of the open meadow, terrified of taking a step and choosing the wrong direction.
The old traveler approaches him, recognizing his younger self in the boy's fear.
He shares the core wisdom he learned from his entire journey. If a kind man walks a difficult road, does the road become kinder, or does the man?
The boy thinks about it and realizes that the nature of the road matters far less than the character of the one who walks it.
The old traveler gently asks the boy what he's carrying in that massive pack.
And the boy lists it all out. His father's crushing expectations, his intense fear of disappointment, the cruel names other children called him, his past mistakes, his anger.
It is the exact same psychological weight the traveler carried all those years ago.
The specific details of our burdens may change from generation to generation, but the fundamental human condition remains remarkably constant.
The old traveler listens patiently and then tells the boy the hardest truth. Most of what is in that pack never belonged to him in the first place.
The boy is hesitant. He clutches the straps and says he is afraid to take it off just in case he needs those defense mechanisms later.
And the traveler gives him this beautiful, gentle reassurance. The things that truly belong to you have a way of walking beside you. You don't have to carry them.
The boy trusts him. He reaches into his heavy pack, pulls out just one invisible heavy thing, and lets it blow away in the spring wind.
The text is brilliant here. The traveler never asks what the boy let go of. He understands that some burdens deserve the dignity of privacy.
But as the wind takes it, the boy stands just a fraction of an inch straighter.
The boy looks up in awe and asks the old man who taught him all of this. The old traveler smiles softly, looks out over the meadow and says, "A gardener."
But the poignant reality is revealed when the old traveler looks over to the spot under the oak tree where the gardener always sat on his wooden bench.
The bench is empty. The old gardener is long gone. He left only two things behind on the seat: a smooth river pebble and an unlit iron lantern.
The traveler realizes his journey is complete. He has officially become the gardener for the next generation.
The boy asks what the original gardener's name was, and the old traveler laughs, a rich, full laugh, and admits he never even thought to ask. He was too busy learning how to walk.
The young boy nods, turns, and walks off into the meadow, his steps noticeably lighter.
The old traveler's left alone. He whispers a quiet thank you to the empty meadow, and the wind simply stirs the blue wildflowers in response. It is the perfect, understated, quiet ending to an absolute masterpiece of a story.
It truly is a remarkable work. Christopher Levine is showing us, through every metaphor and every gate, that meaning is actively created by how we choose to walk and how we choose to help others carry their inevitable packs.
We don't find a neatly packaged meaning of life waiting for us at some final destination. We forge that meaning in the crucible of the present moment through genuine connection, honest reflection, and the courage to uncover who we already are.
Let's do a quick, overarching synthesis of the massive takeaways from these 5 gates for everyone listening today.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Gate 1, exist. You do not have to earn the right to be here. Your worth is inherent, not instrumental.
Gate 2, present. The present moment isn't a rest stop. It is the only place life actually happens. Stone trying to drive while staring into the rearview mirror.
Gate 3, connected. We are a forest. We survive and thrive through the unseen roots of interdependence.
Gate 4, reflect. You must calm your own internal emotional waters before you can trust the reflection you see of the world around you.
And Gate 5, change. You don't need to destroy yourself to become a new, optimized person. You just need to uncover the person you already are.
By wrapping these complex psychological and philosophical concepts in a simple fable, Levine bypasses our intellectual defenses.
He strips away the clinical jargon we often use to distance ourselves from our problems and distills the journey of personal growth into something primal, emotional, and deeply intuitive.
And this is exactly why I'm highly recommending you look into getting this newly published book today.
Oh.
The Five Gates by Christopher S. Levine isn't just a story you scroll through on a screen. It is a tool. It is an experience.
If you head over to Amazon and grab a physical copy, whether hardcover or paperback, you get to physically write your answers in those reflection sections.
You get to pause on those beautiful, evocative illustrations of the stone archways. It will tangibly change the way you interact with your own heady backpack.
It is an incredibly worthwhile addition to your library, or a perfect gift for someone who is struggling with the weight of their own expectations.
It serves as a permanent, physical reminder on your desk or nightstand to occasionally stop, breathe, and look down at the ground beneath your feet. I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought today, inspired directly by the book's epilogue.
The text suggests that the world doesn't change through massive, sweeping declarations.
It changes because countless ordinary people quietly choose to become faithful gardeners in their own small patches of the world. So I want you to ponder this as you go about your day today. Who in your life is unknowingly sitting on a bench right now, just waiting for you to notice the pebble or the lantern they left behind to guide you?
Or, perhaps even more importantly, whose garden are you unconsciously planting seeds in right now, simply by the ordinary, authentic way you choose to exist?
Think about that invisible weight you woke up carrying this morning. Maybe, just maybe, it's time to find a quiet spot off the main road, open up the pack, and realize you simply don't have to carry it all anymore.
Keep walking.